Board. So it is May 31st, 4:30 p.m. in Oakland, and class number 3 of the Spring Business Growth Series. Hi, everybody. So far, we have Ellen and Ruth who went and drove early so she can sit in her car and participate by phone. Yay, phone, for being such a reliable connection. And Judy, and we hope Adina will join us soon. Again, usual housekeeping. Remember to mute yourselves when you're not speaking. It just kind of helps things out a little bit. If you need to make any appointments, please feel free to do that. And just a reminder that the best thing to do, this is for everyone except for Judy, to come to those appointments with 1 or 2 pretty specific things in mind. An hour goes really, really fast. So if you can come with 1 or 2 or 3 things, it's on the side of 3 if it's kind of nuts and boltsy. It's kind of in the more 1 to 2 if there's some healing topics in there. And that can be really helpful for you. Also, just a reminder to everyone is that we are meeting for those on Zoom. So the link you used to come here today is the link you can use for those calls. One more time, I do just want to share the presuppositions. Where are the, there they are. Yeah, no, that's not it. Where, oh, there it is, all the way down on the bottom. No, that's not it either. That's not it. So stop share screen. That's not it. Well, where are you, you little stinker? Okay, cancel, share screen, go to the screens, over here we go, this is what we're looking for. Try one more time, share screen. There we go. Okay. So the presuppositions, if anybody can do it, if I can do it, anybody can. That is, this is all very learnable. We're in a spirit of good enough for now, and trying things in a spirit of learning, feedback, not failure. There are business best practices that I teach, but if anything feels out of alignment, there's almost always another way there. The art of business is what that's all about. And finally, we're not seeking a specific goal to let us know we've arrived. We're seeking okayness, self-rapport, resilience, and trust. This is what makes it possible for us to do this in a sustainable, long-term kind of a way. So we're going to move into the Heart of Business constellations. One of you will be matched with me, since that's what we've got set up right now. Kind of a benefit to me. That's kind of nice. And so we'll separate into pairs. Once again, one of you go first. You just go, you are the heart of my business, and then you represent yourself. And the 2 of you just report out a little bit what that experience is. Remember, when you're representing yourself, you're representing yourself. So as best as you can to put aside your, what you know is going on with your business and your left brain, and just go, wow, I'm feeling really good, or I'm feeling really scared, or what you're saying is kind of freaking me out, or whatever your representational awareness may bring to you. So we are going to move into breakout rooms, and I'm going to let the field decide. That's a Zoom setting that they'll just decide who goes into what rooms. The 2 rooms automatically create breakout rooms. Open all rooms.
They're not back yet.
Yeah, they're probably waiting out until they get forced out.
My husband took my grandson out against his will, so I had to shut my door. So
okay,
yeah.
Okay, so let's do a little check-in briefly. Just super briefly, really just a couple minutes at the most. How are you in your business? Any highs or lows? And anything you would like to share about the constellation. Okay? And I'll just start with someone. Ruth, you go first.
Well, I guess about my constellation, my part of my business was telling me that it was a little impatient and wanted me to, was waiting for me to get going and stuff. And I was feeling like I was getting going a lot. I've actually been, I did a constellation this week for an outsider, and it went pretty well, and I really, held that presupposition of it okayness, and it, but I actually thought, okay, it was, I thought, oh, I have to wait until I have my NLP classes, but no, it's actually, I kind of, figured it out myself. So it was good. But the other thing though is I've registered for a couple of some courses, and one being the constellation course and some psychology classes, and so I'm had to kind of look and see if I'm not actually distracting myself from actually doing my business. If my business was accurate and saying, it's like, oh, don't wait until you're done, with more coursework, don't think you need to know more because you can do it now. And that's what it told me. You can go do it now. So yeah, so that was really useful. So I'm going to do both.
Yeah, there you go. There's always that as well.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
So call on the next person.
Let's see, Ellen.
Well, what I heard my business tell me is that we're at this, we're a little disconnected, but we're at a peak moment, and I need to get on board and partner with a business, or they're going to not want to take this ride by themselves. So yeah, need to, and last time the business told me I need to spend more time with them, and frankly, I've not had a minute to blink since then. So that's all still true. And tomorrow, well, anyway, you don't want to hear all this. So yeah.
Just finished. You got us all intrigued. And tomato or tomorrow?
Tomorrow, my oldest daughter is going to have surgery on her pancreas. So it just feels like the whole world is on hold until that's over, So it's like between my father's funeral, my daughter's surgery, and I just feel like, you're right. I don't have time for my business,
Can I just offer a little tip here or a little reframe on it? And this is for everybody. Judy had this recently too. Life came in very intensely for her. I was sick last week. There's a way. So every year I'd go on 2-week vacation in August, and my business would take such a hit that not only August, but September, like there was just this way in which the world felt I'd left my business. And my coach recommended, is there some way you can go off and totally rest, but still hold that your business continues? And that our engagement with our business goes higher and lower in terms of the actual doing of it, but our connection to the business is a through line. And that's kind of a different way of thinking about it. And it can take a little bit of practice, but is there some way to feel like you're connected to your business, even if just every morning, hi business, and, pat it on the head as you go off to do whatever it is you have to do, so that it's like, sometimes a husband and a wife get in a really busy phase and they can't see each other much, but they at least go, hi, honey, have a great day, just a little bit of connection. So that it just the sort of the energetics of staying in relationship with the business when life gets really busy, it makes it really hard for us to actually do much about it. So,
It made me want to set up a home altar for my home business. I was like,
things like that.
yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Excellent. And Ellen, call on Judy. Just the ritual of it.
Judy, you're next. You're up.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I haven't been paying much attention to my business because I'm swamped with some work that's temporary. And, you know, I'll make some money doing that, which is relatively good, which is, it just means that I'm kind of flat out working all the time. And I was worried my business would feel neglected, but she actually said that her heart was swelling and she felt affection and love, and that she felt that what I'm doing now would actually maybe help support the business, which is probably true, in that they'll give me some extra money to maybe work on a website or something else that can take the business to another level,
Right.
or help pay for my trip to Connecticut for the Constellation Intensive, stuff like that, which would really support my business. I also, even though I haven't been doing a lot, I'm engaging more in the local constellation community, so to speak. And Friday night I went to a family constellation gathering, and I see it as, because I am looking to do constellations beyond family or more than for larger systems. It's actually a good networking opportunity because I'm not in competition with the person offering the evening, because they're doing family. And there were a lot of really interesting people there. So I think I'm going to go back in a couple of weeks to the next one and just see how I might cultivate some of those connections. Because I don't know that many people in Boulder. I've only been here a year, what am I saying? So, yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at.
You've got oodles of constellation people in that town. Elmar Dornberger and Jude Blitz and
they're not doing much right now, though, for the public or in groups. So, yeah, I know both of them.
Cool. Thank you. That you also made me think of something else, which is connected, kind of what I said to Ellen, but slightly different. When I did the conference last year, it just like took over my life. And I kept on thinking about my business, it was getting in the way of my business. And finally, I did some constellations and it became really clear. I needed to think of it as being in service of my business, even if temporarily it was keeping me away from it for a while.
Right.
So particularly when we're engaged in other work opportunities that don't seem directly related to our business, I think it's really good to do what you did, Judy, is to notice the ways it's in service of and part of, rather than in competition with. Yeah. Nice. Okay, so today we're moving on to two new topics and I'm sorry Adina isn't here. I haven't heard from her. I've been checking emails and messages and phone, and I'm not hearing anything. So I'm sorry about that. Hope she joins us at some point. That would be great. So two themes that you all voted heavily for. The first one is our nuts and boltsy piece, which is creating programs, services, and products. Okay. And then the other one for the second half is more of our healing theme. And tonight it's going to be fathers in our businesses. Woohoo! Light stuff. Light. Not a big deal. So I've got, the first part is going to be really heavy on the information. My apologies, guys. But the more I got into this, the more information there was. So we're going to go back to sharing the screen. So to begin with, before we really dive into the material, just take a second to do what we did last time when we started about niching. Because this is where we always want to start, is in our hearts about all this. So just take a moment, maybe close your eyes. I'm only going to do this for a second or two, but just close your eyes and center yourself and focus on your clients and your desire to serve, future clients, present clients. Slow down, connect with them, who they are, and finding the place in your heart that is about being of service and kind of loving what you want to try and do here. Okay, good. I just wanted us to start there because we're about to go very left brain. And wanted to, this is, everything we're about to do is in service of that. And to sort of remember the main thing is the main thing. Again, you're going to be getting this PDF. So take notes as you want to, but a lot of this stuff is in what I'm about to show you. So first thing, I'm returning to an old theme, the marketing funnel. Woohoo! Why are we returning to this? This conversation is not about marketing. The reason is that it's a great sort of picture for structuring services as well. Yeah? So at the top, they're free and low cost and more people participate. In the middle, they're medium cost, fewer people participate. At the bottom, high cost and even fewer people participate, generally speaking. It's also, when you're talking about a new business, which is true for everybody in this series, more or less, you're going to start with the top of the funnel. You're not going to go straight to a VIP offering. That would be kind of silly. So you're going to start with the free and low-cost services and build from there. You want to make something that people can enter into. Yeah? You may move very quickly to these medium and higher cost services, or you may take your time depending upon how things unfold for you. But it's a way to start. This is not the time to design your complex one-year-long $5,000 program and try and recruit 20 people for it, right? You want to start out with easier things for people to enter, easier to sell, okay? Now, at the very, very top of that funnel are what we call free consultations. My guess, free consultations are not for everybody, but they are probably for the people in this series. You may choose not to do them, which is fine, but they are a nice and simple form of entry funnel offering. And it's nice to think of them as an offering, as a service that you provide. Okay. Free consultations can be as short as 15 minutes, minor 45. Did we just get Adina? Say hello, Adina, if you just joined the group. I can't see you, but Ellen just nodded, which means that no. Let me just see. I'm going to stop the share briefly. Yeah, Adina's here. Hello, can you hear us, Adina? Adina, I'm going to trust that you're going to figure out your audio pretty soon, okay? And I'm going to go back to the share screen. Okay, so they can be 15, mine are 45 minutes long. Mine are probably a little bit on the long end, but my own personal style is that I can't get much done in less than 45 minutes with people. I find 15-minute ones to be a little on the short side. They're all about sell, and free consultations are about connecting, building trust, building a relationship, and giving people the opportunity to make a reasonable decision about whether to work with you or not. It's also your opportunity to decide whether you want to work with them or not. Okay? And then if you decide to do free consultations, here is a simple structure for them. I really like to start by telling them the structure of the call. Hi, I'm so glad you're on the call. Thanks for being on time. or however you organize it. Maybe I called them. Would it be all right if I just share with you about the structure of this call? And they go, sure. And then I tell them the structure of the call, which is usually for about 20 minutes. I'm going to get to know what you're working on a little bit more. Maybe we get a little bit of insight into what's causing the problems. And then we'll have about 15 minutes for you to ask me questions, find out how much I charge, how I work, all that stuff. And then at the end, this is the really important bit. At the end, if the call's been going really well and we seem to be connecting, I will invite you to consider working with me. How's that sound? And they go, sounds great. You've just lowered all the tension about the fact that you're going to ask them to work with you. That's the reason for doing that. It lowers your tension about it, and if they had any tension about it, it lowers it too. It's agreed upon. This is a sales call. They understand. Yeah? It's really, that's what I just found. It solves a gabillion things. Then you spend some time finding out about their current problem, help them to understand, as they say in NLP, their present state and their desired state. What's the problem and what would they prefer? And you can do them a great service if you just help them clarify that, which is really all you really want to do. If you get a powerful insight or you do a scotch of work, that's fine as well. Mark Silver of Heart of Business has a great question, which I use frequently. What were you hoping I could do for you? Which means it puts them in the position of saying, oh, I was hoping you could help me with the depression or whatever it is, yeah? And then after you've done all that, you share with them what you do and how you think it could help them get to their goal. Or you can refer them out if you don't think you can, if you have a referral. If you don't, then you say, I'm really sorry, I'm not sure we're a good match. I don't do that terribly often, but from time to time I do, particularly around the business stuff. People will call me about all kinds of business stuff I'm just not the right fit for. You share the logistical details, including the price, and then ask if you would like to get started together. It's a nice, friendly way. So they've said, $200. Okay. And then, so would you like to make an appointment or would you like to get started? Okay. Now, they may have objections, like, I really don't have that much money. I don't have the time. It doesn't feel like a good fit for me. Or I need to think about it. If it's, I need to think about it, I say, of course, mind if I get in touch with you next week to see how it's going for you? And they inevitably say, sure, that sounds fine. And then, you know, if it's money and you feel moved to offer a discount, you can. Or, you know, whatever it is you decide to do with any of the issues that arise. And that's how to do skillful free consultations is a whole class all by itself, which I'm not going to spend the whole class talking about. But remember, it's feedback, not failure. It's really useful once you get off the phone is to take a second and do a little review and notice where you got self-conscious or tense or anxious. And then that's the place where you want to do a little work. But here's the deal. I've heard this over and over again. I didn't believe it until I had my own experience of this. If you're new at it, you'll get better at it. You'll get more relaxed. You'll get more sort of like, you know, we're just having a conversation here. And to respect, as Mark Silver says, that selling is intimate. It is intimate. So to acknowledge that in any way, that you would in any relationship, the intimacy of the relationship. Stay connected, stay curious, and build the relationship in a way that's really natural. Okay? Any quick questions about that? About free consultations? I know people can have all kinds of issues around free consultations. Okay, we're going to move into beginner offerings. For those of you who are really just starting to design your offerings, the simplest thing to do is just start simple. Keep your offerings familiar and easy to accept and just get started. It makes sense to start with a standard offering of your modality, whatever that is. So when I first trained with NLP Marin, everybody did 2-hour private sessions. So that's what I started offering, right? When I got my constellation training, everybody did group constellations. So that's what I started offering. And then once you've done it for a little while, you can start to adjust, okay? You can make it longer. You can make it shorter. You can turn a group event into a one-on-one event. You just, whatever it is that you offer, you can adjust as you get more comfortable. You may want to start with a slightly lower price than the market offers and then grow the amount. Make it easy for your client and look professional. This is pretty important. Make sure you have the infrastructure you need to make it workable for both of you. That may be calendaring services. It may be having a good billing system. It may be, an online scheduler. It could be, what else do I have here? Any email responses, to be prompt about those. Intake forms. Some people like to have intake forms for their clients so that they can gather data and have it organized in a way that works for you. Now, my rule about infrastructure, that's going to be next week because you all asked about business systems. But the rule about infrastructure is no less than you need and no more. So you can keep it extremely simple at the beginning, truly. To this day, I still use Excel spreadsheets for finances. So, a lot of the bells and whistles I have now, I didn't have an online scheduler when I first started. I just did things in my own calendar. And then there was a point where it was clear that was getting unmanageable and that was time to invest in an online scheduler. Some people are early adopters. Some people are medium adopters. Try not to be a late adopter on infrastructure. It tends to make life difficult in business. And the simple rule about infrastructure is when it's starting to piss you off about the way it is, it's time to upgrade to improve your system. Again, I'm going to go into infrastructure a little bit more in the last session. Finally, be honest with your clients about what you think you can do for them, but don't be overly self-deprecating either. This is a balance, yeah? So offerings that say, I can cure your smoking in 1 2-hour session, maybe that's what you think you can do. But maybe you think you have a really high possibility of curing smoking in 3 sessions. That's a different claim, right? And maybe more in alignment with your actual results. On the other hand, one of the challenges that people in the healing professions have is that we are in a nonlinear business. We don't, we're not penicillin for strep throat. We don't have those kinds of cures. And so finding a way to talk reasonably about that, again, you'll get practice at it. I cannot tell you how often I hear people say, well, how can I be sure that after this constellation, my depression will be a lot better? People do ask that. And I'll say, well, I'm not sure. This is, as I think this is kind of a nonlinear process, and it would be really disrespectful of me to say to you that in one constellation, I can cure your lifelong depression. And then they'll feel relieved and they'll feel like I'm being respectful of them. And they'll go, yeah. But, I've seen a lot of really, really good results from these constellations. And they're often really the insight and the shift that people have been looking for. I can say all that with a whole lot of integrity. And people feel good about that. Without going, you know what, I have no idea. Maybe it'll help. Maybe it won't. Because people can do that too. Yeah. Okay. So that's a little bit about beginner offerings. The next thing that comes along after you have your standard offering are packages and programs. I'm going to start with packages. They're really the next thing to add. And you can do it really from the beginning. For those of you, Adina in particular, I think of as a therapist, you probably don't sell single 50-minute hour sessions, right? So coaches and therapists don't tend to sell one-offs in the way that family constellation and NLP people sometimes do. So the rest of us, packages may be the next thing that they start putting together. And the reason is they're easy. There's not much you have to do. You just bundle your offerings, usually offering a discount. So for me, I have one session at $275, 3 sessions at $750. That's $25 off per session. Yeah. The nice thing about it is that they help your income. They help stabilize your income a little bit. But they can also be in a lot more integrity with your clients, right? Again, if someone comes to me for depression, you can count on it. By the end of the consultation, I'll be saying, I'm happy to make a single appointment with you, but I want to let you know that 1 2-hour session is going to make a difference, but we might need to do more work than that. And I want to let you know that I offer discounts for packages if you're thinking about doing more work with me, which is what I'd recommend for something this big. Yeah. At this point, you're putting on your expertise and experience as a practitioner about what clients that are like this person tend to need and what helps them the most. And you want to stand in your expertise about what will actually help them and guide them a little bit about that. We do understand someone, and I keep on using this as an example, but you can apply it to lots of things. Someone with lifelong depression is probably feeling desperate. Yeah? They're wanting a cure. And you and I can respect that. And we want to make sure that we don't try and, sell into that desperation by implying that 1 2-hour session can cure them. If we have a variety of services or more than one session that can really help them out. And when it comes to family constellations, you need to think about this in different kinds of ways. And there's lots of different creative ways of thinking about this. But packages begin to actually address the real needs that your clients have for some kind of ongoing work. It's also, just to be practical, it's hard to reach income goals with just one-offs and packages. It's just the truth of it. It's where you start. It's where you want to build your business. But practically speaking, in order to reach, income goals that most people need, $3,000 to $6,000 a month, maybe a bit more, depending upon where you live, you're probably going to need to be thinking about programs eventually. It's hard to start programs before you have some confidence and understanding of your client's issues. Programs are a more advanced offering when you're ready to make a more complex offer to your clients. Yeah? So what we're in right now is a very modest little program. And then there are larger programs. So that's the other thing. You can start with smaller things. Yeah? And then larger things as you go along. Now, some of you may have noticed that I have left out a potential kind of offering that a lot of people in our fields offer, which are workshops. And I really do need to say a specific word about one-off workshops, as opposed to regular family constellation gatherings, that kind of thing. Workshops can be hard to fill without a decent mailing list. If you're just advertising on Facebook and a little bit of word of mouth, filling a workshop can be really challenging. This is an irony, because workshops are often the first thing that new business people in these kinds of fields offer, but they're often the hardest things to fill when your business is really new. Yeah? And it can be discouraging to rent out a space and not have the workshop well attended and paid for. And yes, as Ellen knows, doing them in your own home in the beginning is fine if your space works for it. It really is. I did it right here. right in this room, right here. I did workshops. I really couldn't fit more than 6 people, but that was kind of what I was getting in the beginning. So that was fine. One-offs are hard. Better to do something regularly and give it a chance to grow. So if in the beginning you only have 2, you're like, well, that's okay. This is something we're going to grow. If you're going to do workshops, you really have to be committed to marketing, which is true for anything. But a one-time event, I just did an event on Saturday, 16 people. It was awesome. I had I have a mailing list. I had kind of a ready audience for it, and I still had to market like crazy. And 3 people showed up on the last day who responded to my, registration ends today email. So you really need to be committed to it. You should consider virtual workshops in this day and age, whether they're telecalls. Teleconference services are free. Zoom is not very expensive. Google Hangouts and Skype are free. The other thing about virtual workshops, of course, is it expands your reach immeasurably. Yeah. And then finally, use Meetup if you're going to do live workshops. Meetup is a ready platform. It is about $75 a year, which is not bad if you use it, a bit. I use mine a ton. Meetup has for years, was originally, not so much now, but still an important piece of my marketing funnel, that sort of opening thing that people come to, $5 just to come to my Constellation workshops. But there are a few tips about Meetup that are really, really useful to know about. Don't create a Meetup group without an event planned and posted. If you announce your Meetup without an event, people will go, I don't see the point. They can't quite get a feel for what it is that you're going to be doing. So make sure you have an event plan because you set up, it's like a website in Meetup in a little bit. I'll make one up for Judy. Boulder Socialist Issue System Exploration. I don't know. That's a terrible title. Don't use that title, Judy. But let's just say that's what it is. And you have a description of you and blah, 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 blah. But you can have that up without any actual events listed, right? So it's really important when you first publish that site, that Meetup, you also have your first event already as part of it. So that when people go, oh, that sounds really interesting, they see something to go to. Which means you probably want to have that event about 4 weeks out, 3 weeks out, so that it can build a little interest, but not like 8 weeks out, because people will forget about it. Sorry, never cancel a Meetup. I don't care if you died. Never cancel a Meetup. Obviously, unless you absolutely have to. The reason being that cancellation notice goes to everybody in the Meetup, even if they didn't RSVP for that event. And it just gives an energy. I had a friend who, he set up a Meetup group, and he was doing okay, but whenever he didn't have enough RSVPs, he'd cancel. And then the announcement would go out to everybody in the group. It was canceled again, it was canceled again, it canceled again, which became a feedback loop. So try to never cancel a Meetup. Have them regularly, same place, same time, blah, blah, blah. Monthly, first Friday, 2 Fridays a month, whatever it is. Engage people who join your Meetup. So when they join, say, hi, Joe, so glad you joined. Hope you're coming to the next event. Make sure your Meetup sounds community-oriented. And this is connected to the final bullet. Start free or very low cost. Meetup is about community building. Gay men who love Yorkshire Terriers and like to hike is kind of a classic Meetup, right? Beer tasters who vote Republican unless it's Trump, whatever it is. They're affiliation oriented. Meetup was not originally intended for businesses to build themselves there. It has become that. And Meetup doesn't mind, But if you're too obvious about it, they have been known to close meetups that are too capitalistic. So you just want to be a little careful about that, particularly in the beginning. Okay? Okay. So at this point, I just want to ask if there are any questions, any shares, any thoughts. I'm going to send you all into small groups to do some brainstorming with each other for a while now. But I want to just start at this point to see if there are any questions about this. I just did a huge data download on you guys. Any references to your own business? Any questions about any of this stuff? So I talked about the marketing funnel, about free consultations, about beginner offerings, packages and programs, and workshops.
I just wanted to say that was a great intro on Meetup, for instance. I didn't know all that stuff about Meetup or why it was there, and so it was really helpful, and I could really see myself using it. So it's cool.
I recommend Meetup highly. Yeah. I really do. Especially, I mean, if you were in, the middle of nowhere, there'd be no point, but we're all in urban areas that use Meetup a lot.
And if you use Meetup, does it actually act as a registration system, kind of?
It does, although you can't really rely on it. It's like Evite or Facebook. People say yes and they're not coming, and
yeah, okay.
they don't RSVP and they come anyway. If you want a really formal registration system, then you have to set up a way for people to pay. And there's a bunch of ways to do that. I mean, you can pay on Meetup as well. I just find it doesn't function very well there, personally. I usually have people register and pay via PayPal, and my events are not so large that I can't manage registrations. If it gets big enough, then you want to go to something like Eventbrite, or I think there's something called Paper Bag, Brown Paper Bag. Is that what it's called? Some people like that. But I just use PayPal links and manage it myself at this point.
Yeah, I think Eventbrite is way too complicated. I'm not ready to go there.
Okay. I've used it. For the size of my events, I just found it a little pricey. I could really see it making sense once you have 50 or more people at an event. Then you can't do it yourself. You can't manage that. It gets too complicated. And then people cancel and they get refunded. You need something that automates all that stuff once you get to big events. Other questions? Okay, so I'm going to send you into groups to brainstorm. I want to share the screen. I can see Adina cannot see the screen. So I will read this. I would have anyway. So you're going to have a lot of time for this, 10 minutes each, so 20 minutes total, because there's no point doing brainstorming for less than 10 minutes, okay? Unless people come back and go, we're done, blah, whatever it is. So you're going to take turns again, as usual. The interviewer is just going to basically ask, what are you doing, if anything, with your clients, and what would you like to do? Kind of an open-ended question. And then the speaker shares anything you are doing or imagine doing with clients. Try to be focused, because then the two of you will brainstorm on your behalf. It's going to be 10 minutes each. I left that blank because if we got really behind, I was going to carve time off here. So 10 minutes each, which means 20 minutes in the breakout room total. Okay? Take notes. So basically the interview were, what are you doing, if anything, with your clients, and what would you like to do? And the speaker, share anything you are doing or imagine doing with your clients. Try to be focused, because then the two of you will brainstorm. and get playful, get silly. Say, I will take people to mountaintops and do constellations on Mount Everest. You know, and I don't necessarily mean that's going to come up, but allow yourself to just dream a little bit, brainstorm. This is going to be one of those situations where I'm not going to tell the interviewer to merely reflect. It's okay if the two of you kind of get in there a little bit and really brainstorm a little bit. And, you know, if you need boundaries about what the other person brainstorms with you, you can say, no, I'm not interested in that. Let's not go there. That's fine. Any questions about this? Ellen? Sorry, I seem to have a frog in my throat, talking too much.
Yeah. The idea of focusing and brainstorming don't feel consistent to me. Maybe what you mean by focus is come up with the core and then because focus to me is converging and brainstorming is diverging.
Yeah, what I meant by focus, thank you for that, Ellen, is it's more concise. Concise about what you're currently doing and what you've so far imagined doing. Could be a really short list. Could be a really long list. That's what I meant. It's more like report out and then dive in and brainstorm from there as a platform. Is that helpful? Sorry, you're still muted.
Just sort of where we put our energy. Just state what you've done and then spend all your time over here.
Brainstorming, yeah, really without a lot of limits, without having to come to answers.
Right.
This is in service to the person who's the focus for that moment, who so that they can leave with maybe some new ideas or some energy or some things they hadn't thought of. Okay? Ruth has her hand up.
Yeah. I just had a question. If I can. Oh, you mentioned take notes. Now, is that just the listener, or the person brainstorming?
You can I would recommend when it's your business you're talking about, you probably want to take notes.
Okay.
But it would be fine to take notes on behalf of someone else as well. But in this instance, you want to take notes on your own behalf for yourself.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Now, I just want to check. Adina, can we hear you?
Yes.
Excellent.
You hear me?
Great.
Yay.
I can hear you. Perfect. Okay. So your phone is not functioning with video right now, huh?
Yeah, I don't know why. I cannot get it to work.
Okay. So I will send you all out into breakout rooms now. It's 5:30. I'm going to check in at 5:40 and make sure you're changing. And then, and if you like, we changed a long time ago. We don't need this much time. That's fine as well. And bring it to a close by 5:50 at the very latest. Okay? Okay. Breakout rooms.
Ellen, hi.
Hi. Who am I with? Oh, hang on.
Doctor, the first person I told you about, sorry, I'm tired, just very brain tired right now. Armand Volkas, he is doing some really exciting work around what sounds like your area of interest.
Oh, I thought we had to go back, Leslie.
You did.
Okay, it's just you. Yeah, okay.
We're going back, or how does this
Yeah, we're
work?
back in the group now.
Oh, okay.
You're all back, Adina. Sorry, sprung you back.
That's okay. I was just going off on
the countdown. So very briefly, any cool ideas pop out of that at all for anybody?
For
Yes.
me, some connections with people were suggested that I might, who are doing the larger work around healing histories and war and trauma and genocide and all that sort of thing. And so, you know, it might be good for me to connect with some of those people and see what they're doing, and it might actually be good ideas there for what I might do.
You bet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, often people are already doing this work, but they don't have the Family Constellations tool.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah. And so it's a really nice collaboration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
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 Other cool, Adina, you said you got some good brainstorming out of it.
Well, yeah, I don't know why sometimes things that seem like they should be obvious don't occur to me, but Judy reminded me that I could look back at a time when I promoted an event and it really was successful, and what did I do differently? And go back and talk to the person who I was connected to at this Unitarian Church in Berkeley, and who then, you might even know her actually, but because I connected with her personally, I think she may have chopped up the workshop or whatever. Somehow I got a huge turnout. I wasn't expecting it because I didn't know a lot of people at the time. I had just moved to Berkeley like that the year before. So it was interesting to think about looking back at that workshop, which was like 8 or 9 years ago, and seeing what I did exactly for some ideas.
It's interesting. I love how these conversations go. What you guys are getting from each other is some really good marketing tips. It's not so much that you're getting content tips, which is fine. Whatever comes out of this is great. Well, Ellen or Ruth, get anything out of your conversations?
I'm looking for a card
Okay.
because
A pile of business cards.
what I connected, what I realized was that this exciting thing that's unfolding had happened before, but I didn't connect constellations before, and I can do that, right? So I'm looking for that person's name so I can reconnect. But it sort of, maybe that's, yeah.
And Ruth.
Okay, I'm on. Well, I found that useful. I like talking about, what I like, maybe setting up I talked about setting up a meetup to actually try out these little vignettes, and then I got excited actually telling Ellen about how I would why about my choice of niche, with the healthcare thing. And I thought, wow, as I'm talking, I'm thinking, that's some great marketing elevator speech kind of language. It's like I can see myself actually making website material or a brochure or something about that, about the interest and why that's so important. Why it's connected to family constellations. So yeah, I got some good ideas about that. She shared a couple of resources, some books that she thought would be pertinent too. Cool. So that was helpful.
Well, what you've all sort of demonstrated is the value of the partnering. It takes time to carve out, but if you allow space to, there are no wrong ideas, and people can just throw out ideas, particularly what you just said, Ruth, about suddenly finding yourself spouting really good marketing language. And then someone says, write that down right now. Because it usually doesn't come out when you sit down at your computer and you start to type, I will now type marketing copy. My brain is empty. But then, in these kinds of conversations, it comes out. The other three conversations really reveal the common theme is relationships and marketing. It's one thing to do, cold calls, posting on Facebook, putting up flyers. Those things are really, you need to get more information out there somehow. But one or two or three really good relationships can make all the difference in the world. I saw one person's NLP practice change completely when she got when a local naturopath decided to refer to her people who she perceived as being stuck in old beliefs. So even one or two of those, but for all kinds of reasons, relationships is really what marketing is about. And then when you think about it, you realize, oh my gosh, I have all these relationships. Totally forgot. I have all these relationships, or someone may know who I should have a relationship with. Okay, good. So we're going to have the break now. So it is 5:56, and I'm going to give you until 6:05. Sorry, I'm going to cut it a little short. I know, but it's only the last hour. So, okay, 6:07. We'll give you a full 10 minutes. Judy went, ah! So
I want to eat something.
Yeah, 6:07, and be on back.
Okay.
Remember to hit yourself on mute before you go, please. Okay, let us regather. Hello, everybody. Okay. Everyone back? Okay. Adina, you back?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay.
I'm just going to mute myself.
Okay, good. Okay, so now we're going to move into more of our healing work, which is going to be on the topic. Oh, Ruth has a question. Hi, Ruth. You have a question, Ruth?
I couldn't hear you, but I forgot to put my earbuds on.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
There you go. That'll happen. Okay, good. Okay, good. So we're going to move into a constellation now. This is going to be a little bit different. Fathers in business, this constellation exercise will inquire into and hopefully resolve some of your father lineage issues that may be affecting your business. And hopefully you'll find it personal healing too. This is kind of a different format. It's going to be kind of a guided group meditation for most of it, with a little bit of personal coaching as we go along. And I want to say a few words about that. So I'm going to be going back and forth from the group to individuals about their kind of, so from the generic to the custom, and then back and forth a little bit. This is going to allow us all to do the constellation at the same time, which is more time efficient, while still addressing differences that arise in each other's constellations, at least to some extent. My personal interventions are going to be short and focused, so don't expect us to go extensively into your personal constellation. And while I'm working specifically with one person, a different person than you, what you can do is either go more deeply into the part of the exercise we are at. If it's really tugging at you, just keep going into it on your own. Or you can step out of your own just a little bit and listen to what I'm doing with the other person, because in all likelihood, this will reflect some aspect of your own, because there's certain commonalities. And then go back to your own when I'm done with that person. And then if you're needing something as well, I'm going to help manage this back and forth a little bit. If it's sounding complex, I'm going to help us do that. And please ask for help if you need it, even while we understand we're part of a group process. So it's an interesting little balance. Now what I'm going to do here is, it's kind of got two parts. It's actually got sort of a preamble and a postlude, and a big central chunk is really the way to think about it. And the central chunk I want to show a picture for. Sorry, Adina, you're not going to see it. My apologies. But I'm going to try and describe it. Oh, where are you? Why do you go away? It goes away when I don't pay attention to it. Ignore share screen. Go here. Go here. That's what we want to see. Okay, share screen again. Okay. Okay, so here is, you'll see the title, hopefully a useful diagram. Hopefully this is a useful diagram. So the first thing to realize is that we're looking down at representations from the ceiling on top of people's heads, okay? And you'll notice that everyone in this picture is facing in this direction. And in the back is going to be, and I'm going to explain this all to you as we go through the exercise. So don't worry about not tracking this perfectly. In the back is a figure we're going to be calling the Divine Father. And the front is going to be your father, your actual father. And in between those two figures on a diagonal are going to be some figures we call the sons. Okay? And I'm going to come back to this when we come back to this part of actually, I think I'll just leave it up here for now. And again, I will describe this, Adina, so you'll be on board. So, any questions before we leap into the constellation? Okay, good. So I invite you to close your eyes. Oh, Ellen just raised her finger. Bottom left hand is the mute. You have to move your cursor.
I got it. Found it, yeah. I'll just say this. What if you're unsure about your biological father? Does that matter?
What I would do is ask for your biological father to appear, whoever that may be. And the constellation will take care of names, dates, people, etc., etc. Is that helpful, Ellen? And thank you for that, by the way. I share that myself. So, thank you. Oh, by the way, also, it's choice. If you want to deal with the person who may not be your biological father, if you want to pin a specific person into this constellation, then you can use the name and make it that person. It's up to you, whichever you want to do. Okay? If you have an adoptive father, someone can choose that person, whatever, it's up to you, the person you want to use. Okay, so close your eyes. Just find your center for a second. And just come to yourself, come to yourself, come home to yourself. Be with yourself. With curiosity, without judgment, without needing to change it. And imagine yourself in a space. And please imagine, this is almost like the Heart of Your Business constellation, only without another person. Just imagine your business across from you, standing across from you in this space. And just start out by noticing how that feels. Again, without having to judge it or change it. Does it feel yummy? Does it feel distant or confusing? Just in a really neutral way, notice how you feel and how it feels, the being with your business. And then please add one more representation, which is for your father. And now there's three of you. You, your business, and your father. And notice how that feels. Did anything change? And how it feels. You might notice the arrangement. Are two of you closer together and a third one kind of left out? Are all three of you quite distant? Does one of the three have their back turned? When you look at your father, do you have any impression of how he seems? And how does it feel to you to have your father there with your business? How does it seem to your business to have your father there? Just notice all these things. After a while, you'll get a bit of a sense of it. Maybe you want to place your attention on your business, but you can't because you keep on looking at your father, or maybe your business and your father are together, leaving you out, or maybe everyone's just on edge. You'll just notice how this kind of seems. And there's a chance that one of you may just all feel dandy. And that's fine too, if that's what's showing up. And now we're going to shift gears into the second part of this constellation. And at this point, you're going to allow the representation for your business to kind of step aside and go into the background. It will come to the foreground at the end of the exercise again, but for now, we just kind of want to imagine it looking on, off on the side. It's not going to be really involved in this next part. And at this point, you're kind of going to recede too. You're going to turn into an observer, mostly, at this point. And just see your father. And then somewhere behind him, and sort of to the left of him from your point of view, behind and to the left from your point of view, at a diagonal behind him, please imagine a representation for the Divine Father. Now, this is an archetype. You can use whatever words work for you. In some traditions, this is Father Sky, the Divine Father, the First Father. I'm just going to use the language of the Divine Father, but translate that for yourself. Back when fatherhood was archetypal, protective, healthy, complete. Just the right kind of strength good fatherhood would be. A fatherhood that flows directly from source. Just imagine a representation for that again behind your father, and from your point of view as an observer, over and to the left. Now take a moment and notice how that feels. How does that feel to you, first off? Does it feel better? Does it get more tense? Is it neutral, maybe? To see your father, and out behind him, the Divine Father. And how does it seem to your father? Does this feel like good news to have it in the room? Bad news? Or he doesn't even notice it, he can't feel it? Now, what we're going to presuppose, it's possible that in this series, there's one or two of you who have an intact lineage between the Divine Father and your father. But for the rest of us, there's some break or interruption of the easy flow of fatherhood from father to son, from father to son to your father. And what we're going to explore is reestablishing this connection. So in front of the Divine Father, please imagine the first Son in front of him. And this is the point where I'm going to ask anyone who's needing a little help. If it gets sticky, if it doesn't get sticky, that's great. Just keep going. But if it gets sticky or anything, just let me know. Ruth seems to have something. Go ahead and speak up.
Are you talking about the first son metaphorically, or like the first son in the family? I'm not sure what the first son is.
The first son of the first Divine Father. So yeah, metaphorically. At some point, we're going to run into history here. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the clarification. So the first son of the first Divine Father. And you might imagine the Divine Father with his hands on the shoulders of that son. And notice the correctness of that connection. And how that feels good, the connection between the Divine Father and the first Son. And then notice the next son. That first son now becomes a father himself, and he's got a son. It's possible, again, you may all walk through this and there's no issues, but it is possible at some point one of these connections between father and son may not feel so yummy. And if that's the case, you can either work it out on your own or let me know and I can help you a little bit. But I think you know where this is going. I'm going to invite you to add another son in front of that last one. So we're starting to build a line of fathers and sons that are going in the direction of your father. And what we want to feel is the correct connection between father and son. And then as the son becomes a father himself, a good connection with his son. And then add another son who becomes a father. And another son who becomes a father. And do this at your own pace. And another son who becomes a father in his turn. Until we actually reach historical figures. Perhaps your great-great-grandfather and his son, your great-grandfather, and his son, your grandfather. Which is your father's father. And notice the lineage intact between your father and the Divine Father. Breathe a bit. And if you haven't reached that point, that's fine. Just take your time, adding sons until the lineage is complete. And again, if anything sticky arises in there, just let me know. And I'll help you out a little bit. Yeah, Ellen? Can't hear you, Ellen. Yeah.
I'm having a little stickiness here.
Okay, so Ellen raised her hand, and then I'll come to you, Adina.
Okay.
I think my father's father disapproved of him.
So can you notice your father's father, so your grandfather's connection with his father? All the way back to the Divine Father. Can you see the lineage intact from your grandfather to the Divine Father? And just feel that. Only when that lineage feels intact and solid, and or we might say good enough, would we imagine the connection between your grandfather and your father. How's that, Ellen?
I'm gonna work on it.
Okay. So the key to this is to, before you try and make the connection between a father and a son, make sure the father is connected up with the previous lineage, and go back as far as you need to find where it's still intact. And don't move forward. You know, it might, my funny feeling is that the interruption is not with your grandfather, it's 1 or 2 generations earlier. And so by the time it reaches your grandfather, it's already a little shaky. And so he doesn't have much to give his son. So go back a couple of generations and see if you can create that, notice that connection before moving to your grandfather. And that's a good recommendation for anybody. Adina, how about you?
Oops. Well, I'm having trouble with this lineage thing because my father didn't know his father after the age of 13 because he was killed in the Holocaust, and he didn't really have a strong, from what I understand, he didn't really have a strong connection with his biological father.
Okay.
So I don't have a lot of context for thinking about him other than that he was taken off to the camps.
Yeah.
My father was young, you know.
So I'm going to share a principle and then something really simple for you. First of all, the principle is that fathers have fathers have fathers have fathers have fathers. Right?
Right.
We know this is true. Even if our fathers die before we're born, which
there's still a relationship.
What happens? Fathers have fathers have fathers have fathers have fathers. It's the law of biology. So we're just going to notice that first. And then we're just going to notice, and I think everyone is going to be able to feel this with you, the ache of your father's loss and how much the lineage needs for your father to feel his father. So don't worry too much about faces and biographies and names, okay? Because that's not the most important thing anyway. For a moment, just imagine, allow the field to elicit for you your father's father's father.
Okay.
That is your grandfather's father, connected to the lineage all the way to the Divine Father. This hands on the shoulders of his son, your grandfather.
Okay.
And you might imagine your great-grandfather say to his son, your grandfather, "Dear son, I am so sorry. You are going to leave before your son is a man." And yet he is your son and will always be your son. And then
Mm.
notice your grandfather place his hands on your father and say, "Dear son, I am your father. I will always be your father, even though I will leave before you are a man." And then you might notice him turn to you and say, "I am always your grandfather, dear Adina, and you are always my granddaughter." And just notice the lineage as whole. Right down to you, right down to your father. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, just feel that a little bit. Don't try and figure it out too much. Just feel the connection between your father and your grandfather and your great grandfather. Okay? Anybody else need a little support through this bit? Judy. And you notice, by the way, all of these are principles that are useful for everybody. Judy, yeah.
Yeah, for me, there's something way back. I mean, I can come forward from the Divine Father quite a ways, but something gets really sticky or yucky or bad,
Yeah,
and it's a long way back from my father and his father,
yeah,
and so then my father and his father are a long ways.
right.
So I don't know. I have no idea
Yeah.
if that's what happened.
So can you just, for a moment, close your eyes and imagine, and this is a metaphor. It could be literal, but we understand it could be metaphorical. Imagine the one who represents the generation at which this got interrupted. Just see him. This is very frequently the case for these constellations, by the way. It's not really local or recent. It's kind of a ways back. So just imagine the one, yeah?
The one who perpetrated or was harmed?
We don't know if it was a perpetration, just where the generation where the interruption took place, where they lost touch with the Divine Father. And we'll notice, in some sense, this is everybody's story because of the patriarchy, right? There's a profound distortion of the masculine and of the father in our culture due to the patriarchy. Some lineages evaded a lot, some not at all. You know? So can you just introduce him to his father and to the lineage and allow him to feel reconnected to the Divine Father lineage before he connects with his son? This is the one who needs to be reconnected. And only when that connection feels like it's really been made, allow him to touch his son. How's that, Judy?
Yeah, I'm still making the connection with the father.
Yeah. So I'm going to invite you, we're going to do this a bit longer, but take as long as it takes, and it might need to happen a little bit offline. You can come back to this exercise and do it at your own pace. But give that generation, that son, as much time as he needs to go, "Oh, I forgot about you." Meaning the entire lineage back to the Divine Father.
Mm-hmm.
It's good to see you. It was terrible. I forgot about you. I didn't believe in you. It's good to see you again. I needed you. I needed all of you. And then when he's ready, he can say, "And now that I have you, I can support my son." And then you can build out the rest of the lineage to your great grandfather, grandfather, and father. How was that?
I'm kind of getting there. I might need more time.
Yeah. This is actually what we're on the lookout for, is where the interruption took place. And again, this is symbolic. We do understand that historically it happens all, generation after generation. But we're capturing this interruption of connection with Source, with divine fatherhood, as if it happened in a generation. With full respect to the men who experience distorted fatherhood as a result of this profound interruption. And since I've visited everyone else, Ruth, how are you? Need anything? No? Doing good? Okay. So some of you may more time gently reconnecting up this lineage and helping any interrupted generations reconnect with the Divine Father that flows through all of them. But for a moment, I'm going to allow you to imagine that the lineage, the connection, the chain between Divine Father and your father has been reestablished. And from there, look at your father. What is it like to look at your father, a father who's reconnected with Divine Father Source? Through the generations. A strong, coherent lineage. Hopefully by now he's looking a little better. And then this is the time to bring back the representation for your business. So it's you, the business, and your father, and the father lineage all the way back to the Divine Father. But mostly, your business is just with you and your father, who's feeling a little bit differently now, hopefully. Just check in with how those three feel. Generally, by now, it's feeling quite different. If before it felt kind of jagged and difficult to share the space with the business and your father in some way, with this set of support and connection, your father is usually feeling like a benevolent presence to you and your business, or at least an improved presence to you and your business. And you might imagine your father taking a supportive place, whatever that might be, with respect to you and your business. Or at least kind of a neutral one. And as we slowly bring this to a close in a few minutes, hopefully all of you have had at least a little shift, maybe a lot of a shift. But if anyone's feeling super sticky, please raise your hand and let me know. You, your business, and your Father supported by the lineage all the way to the Divine Father. So that you are the daughter of a Father who's connected to Divine Source through the Fathers. And then again, recognizing that I did successfully hit record at the beginning of this workshop. You'll have a chance to come back to this and do this even more at your own pace. Gently bring this meditation to a close. Okay. So, some sharing here and some discussion or questions, particularly if you have questions, if you want to do this on your own later, some more. What was that like for people? Ruth?
Well, I just have a question. I was curious. Well, I mean, that was important to me and powerful for me because I actually did a constellation about a month ago in my practice group, and I was shocked at the disdain my father had for my business.
This happens. Yes, it happens. Yeah.
I did not expect it, but it was just there. And so this was a really important healing for me.
Oh, good.
Because that hadn't resolved. But I was curious even from the beginning. Is like why do you work with the father and not the mother?
Oh, Mother's next week.
Oh, okay, good.
Mother's next
Yeah.
week. Yes, no, we do both. I just doing both at the same time is just a lot.
Oh yeah,
and
right.
the impacts of the lineages can have different tones,
Yeah,
feelings, to the point where some people have no issue with one lineage and lots of issues with the other, or you have issues with both, but they're really different. And so, yeah, that's why. Yep.
Yeah.
I start out with a father, number one, because father tends to be a little bit more directly related to business. And number two, I hate to say it, but for women, fathers are usually easier than the mothers.
Oh,
not always. But,
yeah.
And obviously we all have different histories, so it varies. But just there's something about daughters and their mothers. It's just, there's usually a lot more charge for people.
Yeah. Okay.
Even if, father was a nightmare. There's something, and that's, again, not universally true. But yes, next week, stay tuned. Other questions, or shares, and your stickinesses as well.
Oh, I am unmuted. Yeah, I would say, can you hear me?
Yes.
So I'm not sure how the stickiness got resolved. It did kind of smooth out. And so then when the business came back in, it moved over close to my dad and me. And then it came right next to me. And the business and I were kind of arm in arm, holding each other. And then we turned around, like to go forward, and my dad put his hands on our shoulders, each one of us.
Oh, wow. Nice.
And he said to me, really, he said, how did I write this down? He said, I support you, and you can do and have what I couldn't.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Because he didn't have any confidence in being a businessman or anything. He was very shy and introverted, and yeah.
Nice.
Hmm. Yeah, so thank you.
Thank you, Judy,
Hmm.
for sharing that. Eleanor Adina?
I wasn't really that getting a lot. I mean, partly because of what I told you. I think I lost a lot of time sort of mulling over that,
Mm-hmm.
over the disconnect and what that means, and kind of got lost a little bit ruminating about it. So it wasn't so much. I think I needed more time with this. I think I needed more talking through it, because I wasn't able to get any resolution about it other than to feel like something was interrupted.
Mm-hmm. Did you feel like there was an additional interruption in addition to the one between your father and his father?
Say that. Oh, was there another interruption?
Was it your impression there was more than that historical event?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, for sure. I mean,
Okay.
there were just there were a whole bunch of things going on in the marital situation that were interrupting
Yeah.
a real relationship, and it's sort of I realized what a big blank space it is. I'm going to have to go and ask my mom about my grandfather, because nobody ever talks about him.
Oh, that would be nice to go talk
I know.
about him.
It would, and my father didn't talk about him a whole lot as we were growing up, which is really interesting now that I think about it. I think it was just a very painful topic for him. So
it's really common for Holocaust survivors. It's a really common story, unfortunately. And it can be useful for these kinds of exercises to the degree that we are able to drop out the story a little bit about marriages and about early deaths and stuff like that, and just to feel the connections or the disconnections a little bit. Because the stories are really meaningful to us, and constellations, the nice thing about constellations is it can give us another story. Sorry, I'm getting sunny here right at the end. I'm trying to keep myself a little out of the sun for the sake of the people who can see me. So I invite you to do it again, and to the degree that you're able to, and I know this is challenging, try and go through the steps without worrying too much about biography. And for a Jewish male line in Europe, you bet there's going to be more than one big interruption at the Holocaust, right? We all know that historically. There's going to be a few centuries at least of those kinds of interruptions. So the key to this exercise is to go as far back as you have to. If you have to go back 30 generations, 40 generations, until you can find a father who's well connected with the Divine Father.
Okay.
And then add sons. So that by the time that you get people that you know anything about, there's a strong connection with the Divine Father lineage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Boy, I'm gonna have to do some more work on this.
And the nice thing is you have the recording.
That's true.
Yep. So you can just follow through it again, and you'll get to see the picture as well.
Right.
And I think in some ways your work today may have just been the little bit of work I did with you between your father and your grandfather, and that little bit of acknowledging that he would not live to see his son come to manhood. I think right there might have been, kind of all your system could absorb right now, to be fair.
Right.
Thank you. Ellen.
um, when the father first entered the dyad with me in the work, it was all I could see was my father. The work completely disappeared. That's all I could see, and I don't actually remember what happened, but at the end, he was sort of pointing to me and the business. I couldn't yet see the business really in the face, but he was pointing, sort of like he was proud of, like here sort of showing, but out of the way. And I remember, I can't remember, maybe a year ago, I was at I had a constellation. It was supposed to be about me and my partner in our business kind of thing. But what ended up happening was I was completely distracted. My representative was and the person, Gary Stewart represented it, and he came to me later. He said, "Is your father dying?" And I thought, well, yeah, so, but the way that constellation unfolded was that everything really was on hold until, I said goodbye to my father, right? So all of that was present,
Yeah.
and
I would say four times out of 5, when I set up a constellation with the person, their business, and a parent, the problem is that the person has all their attention on the parent. To sort of make it a little reductionistic. That's usually the main problem. And sometimes the parent is seeking that attention, sometimes they aren't. It depends upon the constellation. But that's the thing. They're having trouble with their business because there's still something about mom or something about dad that's too big in the heart, the system, the goings on of the person to make room for the business. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah. And to get a parent in the proper lineage, connect up with divine source. Most of that attention is about taking care of or trying to save or make it right. So once we have the parent usefully connected up with divine source, then we can turn our attention back and go, oh, mom or dad are fine. They're nicely supported. They're looking okay. Now I can place my attention on my business. And then sometimes also the parent, as in Judy's, can show up as genuinely supportive, which is really nice too. Okay, so we're going to wrap it up here, my friends. Our next class is June 14th, our last one. You can see why I originally planned this as a 4-month process. In 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 4 meetings, you can only just kind of get to the tip of the iceberg on this. So some of you may be thinking about whether you'd like to do more work after this, just to sort of put that bug in your ear. If this has felt a little frustrating in terms of being able to go into the depth that you want, it's exactly kind of the dilemma with shorter business growth programs. But it is June 14th at this, because we haven't agreed to any new times, is 5:30 to 8 p.m. Pacific time. The original time. If anyone needs that to change, they need to reach out to me about that and sort of follow the guidelines on how to do that. And as for, so next time, I've already told you what we're going to do. We're going to be doing business systems for the nuts and bolts, and we're going to be doing mothers in business. And probably just a little bit of something, sort of a what's next movement for you, a little bit. As for this class, what is your takeaway? Just a little review. We started out with the Heart of Business constellations and a little bit of check-in. We did developing programs and offerings and services. and sort of really covered the gamut on that. You did some brainstorming and you got some good stuff from that brainstorming. And then we did the Fathers in Business constellations, trying to get some support connection for your father so that you can tend to your business. So I just want to go around. What's your takeaway for the night? What's the big takeaway? Hopefully there's more than one, but what's the big takeaway for this evening? And I will ask Adina, what's your big takeaway for the evening?
Oh my goodness. That there is actually a connection between it's still something that needs to be looked at and worked with. The whole family dynamics and attitudes around money and making money and things like that.
So Dina, I'm going to invite you to finish the sentence. That there is a connection between my father and his father. Just say that.
There's a connection between my father and his father.
Okay, good. I just heard you like sort of, that got caught in the throat. So, yeah, thank you. And Adina, call on someone else.
Judy.
Okay. There are a couple of things that stand out. The first was the brainstorming. That was really helpful, and some ideas of people to connect to and look at online who are doing maybe something similar. And the last, the constellation with the father. Yeah.
And is there a specific something about that?
Well, yeah, I mean, there was a change in my father from the beginning to the end. Quite a significant change. It's not like it's a dynamic change. He was so disinterested in the beginning in the business, and he couldn't even look that way. And something shifted.
Okay.
Yeah, so that feels important.
Excellent. Thank you. Call on somebody, Judy.
Ellen.
I think my takeaway comes from the initial exercise with the heart of my business, that if I don't sort of partner up, it's going to die. Yeah.
It's not going to die. It's just going to think it's going to die. It's going to be so scared. It is just a roller coaster after all. I just wanted to make sure you know it doesn't think it's going to die. Yeah.
Oh, either way, it's not healthy. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Helen. And call on Ruth.
Hi. I got a big shift in how my father felt about my business, and it really felt good. So that's I hadn't realized that. Oh, that was still hanging on as kind of an unresolved issue, but it because that really felt helpful. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Okay, everybody. Well, thank you for a wonderful evening. And I will send follow-ups as usual in the next day or two. And until then, many, many blessings on you and your lives that are busy and full and your businesses. Good night, everybody.